Crowd simulation has made tremendous progress in the past decade, with rule-based actions for each agent being the most popular approach. Making these individual agents move together based on rules results in a collective group behavior, which in turn affects the quality and realism of the virtual crowd. Up to now, most of the prior works in pedestrian simulation tended to focus on individualistic movement behavior, such that when moving together, the group formations are disorganized and fail to mimic real-life behavior of humans as shown by human psychological and social studies for walking behavior. A noticeable trend in watching the simulations is that if the virtual people are not standing still or doing some idle action, they are walking. There does not seem to be a wider range of speeds or a gradual transition from one speed to another. Also, groups are pretty much absent. Rather than in groups, most simulations have pedestrians moving around as loners. This is not realistic. In real life, most people like to associate themselves with others while going to places often. If groups exist in the simulation, it is usually seen as a clustered bunch of individuals whose positions shuffle around easily. There's also follow-the-leader style groups in which the leader does not change at all. In prior crowd simulations, you can also see pedestrians hugging corners when corner turning. This is either due to the A-star path planning algorithms, or it is due to the line of sight tests for path improvement, as will be explained shortly. If many agents are hugging the corner while turning at the same place and time, then this causes pedestrian traffic, which we refer to from now on as congestion. Now I talk about the background for agents turning corners and the problems associated with it. Many crowd simulations that I have seen show essentially straight path destinations for pedestrians with no focus on corner turning. As you can see on the top right picture, this shows the default waypoint method, that is to say, the original path for turning, which includes sharp, unrealistic turns. To get a smooth path such as in the picture just underneath, some researchers use Bezier curves or B-splines. But there's also the easier way of using line-of-sight testing, which creates corner-hugging behavior, similar to A-star search method in a navigation mesh, as shown in the colored picture by a found navigation mesh path line turning the corner, as shown here. Line-of-sight allows for skipping waypoints, as shown by the solid line here. In the biggest fourth figure, although the sharp turns are still made, but as soon as the far waypoint is visible, as shown here, the path can be modified further such that the tendency is to hug corners. Regardless of using line of sight or A-star, this causes problems because pedestrians should be able to turn left or right at corners and still avoid other pedestrians in doing so. Turning should not cause pedestrian jams or clog intersections with people. There are four major objectives to focus on this crowd simulation. First is to have group agent-based steering of individuals, not just individual agent steering. Second is extending the motion velocity range across all possible human movement speeds in the simulation, not just walking, and transitioning between speeds properly. Third is to improve the realism of individuals moving side by side, rather than have them in random disorganized cluster shapes, and turning as a group, essentially shoulder to shoulder. The fourth is to have congestion avoidance for broader passageways and corner turning. In our work, we propose making use of a group agent. A group agent is an invisible leader agent with no rigid body collider. It consists of 5 pedestrian-wide slots in static abreast formation. In a future work, there will be flexibility considering the formation. The group agent independently moves on its own, and it is not dependent on pedestrian movement at all. It is used for primary path planning for the group as a whole. Although it does not collide with obstacles on the path to the desired destination, static obstacles can influence the path. A group agent is designed to be a waypoint agent that goes through and from one waypoint graph to another. Pedestrian agents, on the other hand, are visible pedestrian agents that follow the assigned slots of the group agent by one-to-one correspondence. Each pedestrian's destination is always a slot. Pedestrian agents are navigation mesh agents with rigid body colliders and so can collide with static and dynamic obstacles. The group agent does not wait for the pedestrian agents it is leading. Rather, it is always moving at walk speed to its destination. Since pedestrian agents perform collision avoidance individually, that is to say, maneuvering around obstacles and other pedestrians, while following the slots of the group agent, these pedestrian agents inevitably must try to catch up with the group agent. Thus, adjusting pedestrian velocities is a necessity in a simulation. For this simulation, we designed a speed action finite state machine with speed states depending on the distance in meters to the assigned slot. To catch up to the group agent, each pedestrian adjusts its velocity gradually. The distance is in meters to the assigned slot. It is important to note that saunter and dally are slowed down states which help the pedestrian agent avoid getting too close to the group agent and avoid passing the assigned slot. The current speed of the pedestrian agent is determined by the random target speed according to each finite state machine speed state's target speed range. This is what controls the speed blending parameter in the Mechanim character animator feature of the Unity game engine. In the bottom picture, the Mechanim animator diagram in Unity is displayed with the animation blend tree and the inspector window on the right. A speed parameter value between 0 and 1 inclusive is used to blend animation clips between walking and running. This speed parameter value is selected programmatically depending on the finite state machine as mentioned before. To handle congestion-free group corner turning, multiple independent waypoint graphs are used. Using multiple graphs reduces the search space and thus speeds up search. The group agent traverses only one waypoint graph for guidance in a corner turn. It does so using the original path as defined in the turning corner slide. It goes waypoint to waypoint, but it turns gradually to the next node in the graph when getting near each other in order to get smooth turning. It is important to note that large triggers before the intersection aid in choosing the desirable graph. The pedestrian's collider fires the event in the trigger to start the graph selection process. The trigger has start and end nodes information of each graph relevant and turning from the trigger. The trigger's forward vector, which is shown in blue, faces toward the intersection in order to detect the group movement coming toward the intersection. The group agent moves to the nearest start node of the chosen graph before doing the turn. Now, for understanding the decision-making process for choosing the graph for corner turning. Here, line 1 is the need to retrieve the group agent across the trigger based on a member pedestrian that fired the event using collider. Lines 2 and 3, if the group agent's turn direction was already assigned from the previous run of this algorithm, that is, from an event fired by another member in the group on the same trigger, we'll get the same result, so just skip by bailing out early. Line 4, only do the algorithm if the forward vectors of both the group agent and the trigger are essentially aligned, and don't do this after turning. Line 5 and 6, the ID of the trigger, which determines the case approach for one of 4 triggers. This is used in a generic algorithm and is not needed in an algorithm tailored for a specific trigger. Regarding lines 7, 8, and 11, just choose the case based on the already determined turning direction, which is enumerated. Line 9, using the list of starting nodes of relevant turning waypoint graphs from the trigger, compare the distance to each and choose the one with the smallest distance, which is the closest waypoint. Line 12, in the case of going straight, don't need to use the waypoint graph at all, so assign null. Line 15, when finished, flag the graph as has been chosen to avoid repeating the algorithm by another pedestrian member, as shown by line 2. Before showing the demo video footage, let me first explain the simulation setup. The test bed is a 4-way intersection in Unity 3D with up to 200 pedestrians and a random number of groups with random number of members up to 5 people. The simulation allows for changing user perspectives live via multiple cameras, which includes the ground level view if the user clicked on a pedestrian from bird's eye view or top-down view. Only one of the 3 cameras for the 3 views is activated at a time. Corner turning is set up in this simulation such that if pedestrians fail to keep up with their group agents when they move out of bounds and relocate, they must run to wherever their group agents reappear in the world. For this case only, since it seldom occurs, these pedestrians are permitted to hug corners in the navigation mesh path planning to get to their group agent. The simulation thus balances wide corner turns and corner hugging, increasing the free flow of groups at intersections by reducing the pedestrian density and allowing more room for collision avoidance. When showing the breadcrumbs, the path that was just taken can be shown for each pedestrian. Here, the smooth path can easily be shown thanks to the guidance of waypoint graphs. Any bumps in the path as a result of collision avoidance behavior. Optionally, the simulation can be viewed only by bird's-eye perspective in an augmented reality application for a camera-equipped smartphone using Android or iOS, but it is not interactive. Not surprisingly, increasing the number of pedestrians moving around does slow down the application significantly in the mobile, so for decent performance on the mobile device, population sizes are kept relatively small compared to the entirely virtual version on the PC. Now for the demo video footage.